What's up, y'all? It's your boy eBay Fight Predictions in the building. I've been super bored. I woke up pretty early. I go to work in the afternoon, so I was like, you know what? Might as well make a video. And I was thinking about a video to make, and I thought, let's make a video on Jon Jones, right? Now, so I've seen everyone talk about Jon and his situation at the UFC Hall of Fame. Not necessarily at the Hall of Fame, but what he did after the Hall of Fame, more or less. But yeah, he got caught up. He did some things, he shouldn't have done. But I thought, everyone's really talked about that one situation, but I don't feel like everyone's really talked about him as a person and how did he get here. To do, I call it the final judgment of Jon Jones. That's what I'm probably going to call this video. But yeah, I thought about doing kind of a whole entire, synopsis of all the bad things he did and kind of give my judgment on who he is as a person. And should I judge Jon? Honestly, if I'm being honest, no. As a man, I shouldn't judge him. But will I? Yes, I will. But yeah, and I think I'll give a decent almost origin story of how this all started and almost my opinion of why he is the way he is and the things he's done. But if we're being honest, we really got to look at probably one of the first things where he's got caught up for, right? One of the first things I ever heard about Jon being bad, right, was the hit and run incident. That really was the first time I ever saw Jon in a bad light. I never really hated on Jon. Growing up, I one of the first real pay-per-views that I ever ordered and really watched. Now, I'll tell people, as an MMA fan, I kind of grew up with Frankie Edgar. That was really the first person I really watched, and like I really fell in love with. I didn't really grow up with Chuck Liddell, Tito, all those guys. Nothing against Rampage and all, all those other champions. But I really grew up with Frankie, and I always paid attention to Frankie because he was small. I was small at the time before I grew up, right? And he was a wrestler, and I wanted to be a wrestler at the time when I was really young. So I really paid attention to that. No disrespect to those other guys, but that was my boy, right? And Jon was really, to me, growing up, was really the first light heavyweight that I kind of really saw as the GOAT, and as I was actually interested in, right? And I mean, what he was able to do, and again, y'all, no disrespect to other champions. I'm not trying to say that, but that's just was me as a younger guy. Now, obviously, I have respect for Shogun, Machida, Rashad Evans, Rampage Jackson, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, some of the greats of the division, right? And, the things that they did for that division. Don't get it twisted, right? Shogun is he has some of the greatest fights of all time. So don't get it twisted, right? But just Jon was somebody that was actually I really wanted to watch. And one of the first things I ever saw from Jon, because it was weird, I was a young MMA fan, so I wasn't as consistent as I am now. So I wouldn't necessarily consistently watch everything. But one of the first pay-per-views I ever ordered, right, as a young kid, and I didn't order it, I had my dad order it for me, was, I think I might be wrong, but it was UFC 165, Gustafsson and Jon, and watching that pay-per-view, I mean, and watching that fight, blood, it was crazy, and it was insane, right? And then after that, right, I think he had fought Glover, and I think that was when he got stripped. That's what I think. But it's all coming off the dome right here. I'm just giving you guys my thoughts. I should have done some research, but just giving you guys my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he got cut off for that hit and run incident, and it's a pretty bad incident. I mean, he legitimately he hit the female, right, and then he dipped out of there. Like no regret at all. He just did what he did, and he didn't give a fuck, y'all. He did not give a fuck, and that's who Jon is at his core, And he's just he's almost a nonchalant kind of guy, and it is what it is. I mean, it really hurt his image. He collided with the car. The lady was pregnant. It was in I think New Mexico. He had a marijuana pipe, found in his car. The next day, he was suspended, stripped by the UFC. Everything was taken away. But I remember they made a video about the whole entire situation where everyone talked about it. And they kind of, all the UFC fighters kind of judged him for it, but it is what it is, and yeah, it happened, and it was one of the things that probably can never happen again, right? And you assume that, but he kept going. He didn't give a fuck, y'all. Like, I swear, that's what makes this guy super interesting. It's like, how did all these things happen to him, right? Where this stuff just keeps happening, right? That's what everyone's always wondering about this dude. But you know, stuff kept going on, and it kept going on, and it kept going on, right? And then obviously he had the UFC 200, right? It was his big comeback. He was gonna fight DC, and he failed a drug test, right? And that was another thing that happened. And what happened here? Obviously, it's a little different. He kind of failed for. He tested positive for a cocaine metabolite, and you know, in UFC 182. But this one was a little different. This was, I think, a actual. Was it a cocaine? Yeah, it was actually a cocaine metabolite that he tested positive for, and he just got in trouble for. Originally, I thought it was actually steroids that he got in trouble for that one too. But I might be wrong. But obviously I'm just seeing this right now. But yeah, he got in trouble for that, and he ruined the whole card. Not ruined the card. You know, obviously they still had Brock Lesnar and all those things, but it was a big fight. They promoted it, and it was John versus DC, and it got pushed back. And then John, he did another thing. He fights DC, UFC 214, a big fight, y'all. Big fight. Probably, I consider one of his better performances of all time in his career. I would say so too. And the guy he did it to, he did it to fucking DC. DC ain't no schmuck too. I'll tell you that. And he lit him up, man. And after that, he tested. And here's the thing about the whole entire situation. After, like, I won't even talk about what he tested positive for. Let's even talk about the moment where he did it, and where he's talking to not John Jones. He's talking to Joe Rogan. He says, I'm back, y'all. It's over. And Joe is just, I mean, it was the conclusion to the story, the conclusion to all the bad things he did, right? The final resurgence, right? This was all assumed. He calls out Brock Lesnar, and then we're like, oh my God, John Jones is going to be the superstar that he's always should have been. And what does he do? In the biggest moment of his career, where he can be like, I proved everybody wrong, I came back, and I showed everyone I'm not a bad person, I'm not a fucking druggie, I'm not a Pico boy, I'm back. What does he do, y'all? What does he do? He tests positive for a turinabol steroid. And now this steroid, here's the thing. I've always been kind of lenient on John, and I've always been lenient on steroids. I've never been a big guy to call someone a drug cheat, because I'm not too educated on the topic of roids, and nor do I really care. I care about fighting. I'm not a goddamn drug dude, or I won't even say call myself a drug dude or drug expert or steroid expert, right? I will never call myself that. So that's why I never really throw those accusations out there. Maybe I might joke around and say it, but I don't really honestly care, if I'm being honest. But he tested positive, and it just was insane. Because for John, I mean, dude, that was his moment, man. like I actually feel bad for him, because people don't really consider, if he would have done the right things after 214, he would have been a massive star. All right? People talk about he could have been a massive star before. No, that was the moment, y'all. That was I think that was the biggest pay-per-view he ever sold with DC. Now, obviously, it didn't go over 1 million, but 800 buys is not bad. That is not bad at all. All right? Sonnen and Silva, too, did like 900, right? That's not bad yet. Not everyone can fucking pull McGregor numbers. But for him to do 800 like that, that is good, y'all. Everyone was watching that shit. Everybody was watching that. And he did his thing. He did his thing, and he performed well, but he got caught up for those drugs, and it halted his momentum, and he couldn't achieve the star success that people wanted him to achieve. And obviously, there's some other stuff, right? The UFC 151 cancellation, right? Where, he fucking canceled the whole entire event because he didn't want to fight Chael Sonnen, right? There, the incident with the drag racing with the cop, right? We all remember that incident. But recently, I haven't even talked about it, right? And something I guess actually it wasn't recent. It was a while back. But an incident I guess I never brought up to you guys, and a lot of people don't know about this, is the Tyson Griffin situation. His teammate. A lot of people don't know this. This fucking dipshit. Look at the stuff he sent this man. I hope you guys can see this, right? I will text message by text message. I'll read this. Tyson, and this is a teammate of his, right? And I'll explain the origin. You know, Tyson Griffin was a teammate, right? And you know, and then he left. He went to go AKA, and John felt some type of way about a lightweight going to AKA. Fucking Tyson Griffin can't teach DC how to beat John. All right, there is no way he could do that. He went there to get better work with other lightweights at the time. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Josh Thompson. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Islam wasn't a big name, but he was there at that time. A lot of work he could have got. You know, there's a lot of other lightweights I'm forgetting that was at AK. You know, even Gabriel Benitez, if anyone cares. But yeah, exactly. So he felt some type of way, and he sent this to Tyson. I'll read it out. Tyson, I'm sitting on about $8 million cash, and he sent it to him via DM, by the way. I have $2 million in real estate. I won the UFC belt 9 times. I'm internationally famous. I'm 6'4". Like, what the, like, why would he say I'm 6? Well, all right, let me keep on. You, on the other hand, I'm guessing 5 feet flat. I'm guessing with the net worth of 100K, never won any titles, can walk around without anyone giving a fuck who you are or what you do. My point is you and I, as UFC athletes, are not close to being on the same level. I'm guessing that's why you are constantly attacking me, and it's understandable. You're literally and figuratively like a boy compared. Let me go to the other slide. Right? Like a boy compared to someone like me. I'm actually questioning myself as I'm writing this, thinking, why am I even giving you the time and day? Like, I like how he adds that in, like, you're not worth my time. Every time I turn around, you're writing some bullshit. Why do you try so hard to get my attention? Now, obviously, Tyson responds like a normal human fucking being. I was actually being genuine and wanted to avoid tainted supplements, but apparently you are not a very genuine person. Maybe you knew exactly what you were taking and lied about these supplements at the end. Let me go to the next slide. At the end of the day, I'm sorry. You feel the need to try and belittle me and make me feel bad about how much money I have in my bank account. Unlike you, I remember the day we met and we fought on the same card, and actually said it was a pleasure to meet me, that you enjoyed watching me fight. Guess those words weren't genuine either. I wish you the best of luck finding your way back to the cage, and above all, finding happiness in your heart. God bless. I mean, beautiful response by Tyson Griffin. Told that dummy that to get a fucking life and leave him alone because he don't want none of that smoke. So yeah, I think I've listed all the bad things he did, and most recently, he beat the shit out of his wife, right? Or his, my bad, his fiance, which is crazy. He's been her fucking fiance since I was goddamn 8 years old. He hasn't fucking married the lady. Like, come on, John. Like, dude. Now that just, and obviously maybe she isn't the most attractive lady in the world, but he has like 3 daughters with this lady, right? So I'm assuming John, he probably has a lot of bitches, right? I'll give John that. I'll give him some credit there. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's horrible, right? And you wonder, where does this all come from? How did this guy end up like this? He's one of the best UFC fighters in the world, right? Pound for pound. I mean, has a crazy legacy. Why is he like this? Now, some people might say, well, that's how you have to be. But when you look at other champions, they're not like this. They don't belittle people. They're not evil. I won't call him evil, but he's not a good person. I'll just keep it like that. Not good, he's not a good human being. You don't see Kumar Usman acting like this. Like, there's very few people you can show me, right, as UFC champions that act like this. Where he belittles teammates, where he belittles other fighters, where he attacks other people, does dumb stuff like this, takes drugs, does hit and runs, hits his wife. Like, you can't find anyone. He is in a different class of his own. He's very special in that. He's very, very special. I'll give him that. And obviously, let me not forget about the DUI, right? And he fucking got in, I think in COVID, right, during the COVID quarantine time, where he got caught up for taking, not taking steroids. I was about to say just drinking beer and being fucking drunk, right? He got caught up for that and looking like a complete idiot, and he had this little mugshot. But we wonder where all this come from, right? John, and here's my opinion. This is the origin of where this comes from. It's just a theory. I got no facts, but this is what I think. And he even kind of talked about it actually in the countdown, if I'm sure, when he fought Dominic Reyes. And I'll actually try to find that clip. I'll find some clips and like put it near the end, or maybe I'll put a clip here if I can find it. But yeah, here's what I think. I think John, personally, this is just my opinion, y'all. I personally think John, being on the football team in high school with his older brothers, I think he didn't get the attention he kind of wanted in high school. He was a good wrestler, but his brothers were also good wrestlers, and they were good football players. And as a wrestler, I know people don't give a fuck about wrestling. They give a fuck about football. They give a fuck about basketball. Those are the big sports, right? I played football too, and I could tell the difference between the games at home and then our wrestling meets at home, and it just was night and day. Now, obviously, there are wrestling states and there are sides where wrestling is really, really big. Don't get it twisted. But most of the time, football will always be the #1 sport in the United States of America. And I feel like his brothers always got the shine. And I feel like John personally never got the shine he ever wanted. But John, he always found himself at a really good level at wrestling. And he was a good wrestler, right? But I don't think first of all, he wasn't the best wrestler in his school. That's one. He got a scholarship, right? But actually, I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say he wasn't the best wrestler in the school, but he wasn't the best wrestler all time, right? It's actually funny. I never knew this, but if anyone knows the pro wrestler Matt Riddle, I just found this out recently. Apparently, he pinned him I think twice, and hey, there's no shame, y'all, to getting pinned. When I was a lot younger in 5th grade, when I first started wrestling, I got pinned, right? It's happened, right? But I mean, oh my God, I never knew this. It's and Matt Riddle's a former UFC fighter, MMA fighter. And I think he did fight in the UFC. It was really, really interesting why his career never went the way it should have went. But he pinned John Jones. That's something he can live with, and that's hilarious. I never even knew that. But yeah, I think that aspect of the sport that he never was necessarily the best wrestler. He got pinned twice by Matt Riddle. His brothers got all the attention. And I think that being where he probably felt like he deserved the respect, I think he took it out on the UFC fan base, on the UFC athletes, on MMA in general. That kind of feeling of not being, loved and showered with praise that he always felt like. And that's why you always hear him talk almost as if he just has this chip on his shoulder. And I don't know where it comes from, but he just feels like, to this day, he doesn't get his respect that he deserves, and that I should be known as the greatest of all time. And it's you don't see people act like, you don't see George St. Pierre act like this. You don't see Demetrius Johnson act like this. You never see, obviously, Mighty Mouse I don't even know why I brought him up. You don't see Anderson act like this, right? Just two dummies act like this. Him and Israel Adesanya have this, I don't know, this weird situation with their brain that they were just not born normal. I don't know what it is. But yeah, they just weren't given normal brains. I don't know, but just a theory. But yeah, and it is what it is at the end of the day. But my final judgment on John Jones, and what do I think? After hearing all these things, he's just not a good person, y'all, and I think that's where it comes down to. It's just that simple. I don't think there's any drugs involved that made him like this. I don't think because he's an alcoholic, he's a bad person. I don't think what else? I don't think he has any mental demons. I think he's just not a good person, and that's just how he was born. I don't think there's any mental issues. I don't think he's mentally disturbed like some people say he is. I remember when he made those jokes about Anthony Smith. I don't think there's a mental issue in there. I think he's just not a good person. And I know that's kind of hard to understand, but I just think he was raised a certain way. And obviously, I'm not saying nothing against his dad, but the way he was brought up, I just think, you look at these situations, and I think DC said it best. You don't constantly make mistakes. He told him to his face, you don't constantly make mistakes. I think that's where it comes. You don't constantly do this. This is who he is. He's rotten at his core, and and that's just how he's built. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, it happens. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Those are my thoughts on Jon Jones and my final judgment on him. He's just not a good person, and I think that's where it comes down to. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I talked a lot about Jon, and want to call him a scumbag, go ahead. Want to call him a dipshit, go ahead. I could care less. But love y'all, and goodbye. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram, on my Twitter. It's your boy eBay. Love y'all, and goodbye.
Expect 3, 4, 5.
I don't really like people like Dominic, to be honest with you. He's always had it all, He's always been the starter. He's always been the jock. He's always been the cool kid. He has his degrees and shit. He thinks he's smarter than people. He thinks he's more athletic than people. And he's convinced himself that, these common traits in elite level athletes are somehow different in him. Newsflash, we're all elite level athletes here.
All day, we're just warming up. All day.
But at the same time, I think we all know for a fact he hasn't fought someone as athletic as me. For sure.
What's your reaction to that?
It doesn't really matter what.
He doesn't want to hear my reaction.
Please.
He doesn't want to hear my reaction because I will tell him some sobering truth.
Please.
Sobering truth is his history dictates and determines that the same thing is going to happen. That is his character. That is him at his core. I look at that young lady, the PR lady that's on his team now, and I see in her eyes, she knows she's fighting a losing battle. I look at his coaches. I see that these guys know that this kid will not change. He will not change. He's the same guy. He's rotten at his core, and he will continue to up.
Don't you think that people can learn from their mistakes?
Mistakes? You don't constantly make mistakes.
No?
You make mistakes, but you don't do them over and over and over and over. No.
No, says who?
You don't do that. If
Says
you
who?
know when you make a mistake, it changes you. You try to make yourself better.
Not necessarily.
And this is, many times we've heard this speech. John, this isn't the first time you've told us this.
No,
same
absolutely.
thing.
You know what?
This isn't the first time you've told us that. So how am I supposed to believe this guy? I don't need to actually. I actually give two. Jon Jones is in jail. I can give two. I just don't want anything life-threatening to happen to him. But anything else, I don't give a damn if Jon Jones is. I don't care what happens with him.